We have plenty to hide. That says it all, doesn't it? Like a cast iron head and an aluminum block that expand and contract at different rates and chafe the head gasket. But if you were to get a Vega, the GT would be the one to get. Had the 2-barrel carburetor, full instrumentation, tack, amp meter, fuel gauge, no dummy lights, just actual gauges that let you know how things are running. Big fat 13x6 steel wheels and front and rear anti-sway bars with stiff rate coil springs. That car could handle and look good doing it. When the Vega was first introduced, it was a pretty light car. A base model was only 2,181 pounds. Of course, the more you dressed it up with GT stuff or LX stuff, it would end up being almost 2,300 pounds. But that was pretty light for a car. Figuring you had 100 horsepower in something that only weighed 2,300 pounds. The first year of the Vega, in 1971, GM sold 277,700 Vegas. And then in 72, they sold 394,592 Vegas. And then it was just picking up every year. 74 was one of the biggest years. 452,886 Vegas were sold. By 1975, though, the public had caught on to the problems of rusting and the head gasket issues, the aluminum engine, small radiator, all the problems were coming to a head, and sales plummeted to half of what they were, to 239 Vegas sold. Cosworth Vega, now that was something John DeLorean had a hand in. But the problem was that little aluminum block. Cosworth just could never make it last for racing. The freestanding cylinder bores would jiggle around, or, just wasn't a great design. But in its day, it was fuel injected electronically, which is just like your modern car today. And it had twin overhead cams, 4 valves per cylinder. On paper, it should have been phenomenal, but by the time they added all the smog and emissions things to it, it had gone down to basically just a GT Vega's horsepower. In 1976, GM was trying to save the dying Vega. So they took a bunch of Vegas to Death Valley, and they ran them hard for 60,000 miles over 2 months to prove that the new redesigned Vega motor was going to be durable. But the Durabilts ran good. They kept using them in the Monzas for another year or two after the Vegas ended. There was some kind of deal with Reynolds and the aluminum engine. That's why the block was aluminum. They really thought they could get away with the siliconized aluminum bores. A lot of parts on the Vega are aluminum. The later models, the nose, the 74, 75 nose, that's all aluminum. The aftermarket was ready to cash in on the Vega's popularity. Companies like Adobe and Aiko offered reinforced engine blocks, suspension components, gauges, Weber carburetor conversions, anything you could imagine. Dealers like Baldwin Motion and Yanko, they began to offer high-performance Vegas. Yanko had a Stinger Vega, which had a turbocharger, and Motion, Baldwin, those guys, they had V8 Vegas. You could drop 350s and big blocks in them, whatever. And they would do that like brand new. Take your brand new Vega and turn it into a hot rod for too much money. And all of them offered spoilers and doodads to make the body look cool. And by 1977, only 78,402 were sold. And then they changed the name to Monza. They used up some of the leftover Vega bodies in the Monzas. And that was the end of it. the bright star that was to be Vega dimmed and faded out.